Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah. We are few, but we are mighty. Welcome to the Errol Barrow Memorial Lecture 2026. I'm your presenter, Tyrone Roach, and this is hosted by the National Council of Barbadian Association UK. And we feel that it's important to remember Errol Barrow as it is. That's why we continue to host these lectures despite the trials and tribulations within our community. To start, just to let you know, the occasion is on our schedule today. We have a poet. I'm not sure she's going to do poetry, but she did say she was going to do poetry. She might even do a reading by Miss Michelle Bank, and then there's a introduction of a tribute to Errol Barrow by our chair, Dr Belfield, and before we go into the lecture with Dr Belfield, Burgess, who happens to be an NHS consultant, and we'll talk more about that. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the platform Mrs. Michelle Bank, teacher, lecturer, poetess, and playwright.
Oh my goodness. Good afternoon, everybody. Wow, you've given me such a big title there. I wonder if I can live up to it. Oh my gosh. Tyrone said I could talk about anything, and I said to myself, do you know what? I'm not going to talk about politics. It's not the time to talk about politics right now, but I might just land up doing so. Because earlier on the week, I went to a little event and I met with some friends. And as I walked in the door, one of my friends said to me, Michelle, you in on the list? I said, list? What list are you talking about? You know, the overseas list, the overseas voters list. So I said to her, how would you know? And she went, ha 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 ha. I said, so you looked at the list? And she said, it was kind of like, well, yes, I do want to know who you're on the list. And I said, you're too malicious. So no, because I'm here, I'm not on the list. And I'm sure many of you might have wanted to be on that list to be able to vote, but you're not, just like me. So I decided to write a little poem about it. The 2026 Barbados general election is set for Wednesday, 11th of February. You all know that. So, the bell has rung at Westbury School. An early vote, it's the new rule. Mia says it's time for a renewal spree, while the rest of us check the EBC for our pedigree. Folks in the gap talking about ground, while candidates in suits walking round. Some promised fish, some promised the moon, to get your ex on that Wednesday afternoon. But let's talk about us Bajans across the sea. We claim we love our sweet country. We want to vote, we want our say. But the voters list said, not today. You're on the overseas list, didn't you know? Gone 5 years or more. Well, didn't you hear? The EBC cleaned house with heavy hand and struck off names of those not in the land. You could shout from London or New York City, but that residence list has no pity. Unless you're home and continuous too, that ballot box has no space for you. The February 11th date was looking quite fine, but we can't grab our IDs and stand in line. So, if like me, you're abroad and feeling a slight, just remember, next time you should catch a flight.
Yeah.
Thank you. And as I said, I'll keep it short and sweet, so that's me. Let's enjoy this lecture. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
I like it.
As a member of the family, I think that was absolutely brilliant.
Thank you.
Now, you might be wondering why we're hosting, what we're doing today. So, the whole point of it, if we don't get the numbers, we was just going to host the lecture, upload it onto our YouTube channel so that others can see the brilliance of what we have in the UK Barbadian community. Now, the next person coming up is another formidable academic within the UK Barbadian community. She is a retired university lecturer and administrator with a teaching career that spans some 40 years from primary school teaching to university lecturing. You wouldn't believe that if you looked at it, would you, really? She was also a youth worker, youth counselor, mentor, and an advocate for parents whose children were excluded from school. She was involved in the Saturday school movement and taught within the sector for 30 years. 20. Oh, sorry, I do apologize. See how sharp she is? Now happily retired, she does occasional teaching, but is mostly involved in charitable work. She's the chairperson for the National Council of Barbadian Association in the UK and chair of the Allen School Alumni Association UK and Friends. Her hobbies include traveling and line dancing. Honestly, I thought it said line. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the platform Dr. Beverly Goring.
Okay, thank you. Right, so good afternoon, and we're here to commemorate the Right Excellent Errol Walton Barrow, first Prime Minister of Barbados and national hero. So later you'll hear from Dr. Dunn. So my role really is just to give you a little taster, just to warm you up, I guess. So many of you would have know about Errol Barrow anyway, but some of you might not know a lot of information about him. So this is just to give you a short bio of him. So he was born on 21st January 1920 in St. Lucie, Barbados, into a family of political and social activists. He attended Combermere School and later went on to Harrison College. He obtained a scholarship to study theology at Codrington College, but changed his mind and instead enlisted in the British Royal Air Force in 1940. Okay. Oh, there are lots of pages, but it's just that my eyes are not very good, so I have to. It's in 20 point at the moment. Right. So he served as a flying officer and was later promoted to the prestigious position of personal navigator to the Commander-in-Chief of the British zone of occupied Germany during World War II. So after his successful and highly decorated military service, he attended London School of Economics and then went on to study law at Inns of Courts in London. He was chairman of the Council of Colonial Students, and his contemporaries included people like Forbes Burnham of Guyana and Michael Manley of Jamaica, both of whom also went on to lead their countries. So on Barrow's return to Barbados, he entered politics and was elected to Parliament as a member of the Barbados Labour Party in 1951. He was a very socially conscious man and wanted to pursue more progressive politics. So he left the BLP and with a group formed the Democratic Labour Party in 1955 and became its leader in 1958. Right, his party won the general election in 1961, and his government was able to implement those sort of progressive policies that he cherished so much, such as expansion of education, making secondary education free, founding of Cave Hill campus as part of the University of the West Indies, and also the introduction of national health insurance and social security, and also the expansion of tourism, of the tourism industry. So free secondary education is still considered to be one of the most transformative policies of that time. So Barrow led the country to independence in on November 30th, 1966, becoming the country's first prime minister. But Barrow was also a regionalist and strongly believed in greater cooperation between the Caribbean islands. He was founder of CARIFTA, Caribbean Free Trade Association, which was established in 1965, Now this evolved into what we now know as CARICOM, which is short for Caribbean Community. In 1973, when together with Forbes Burnham of Guyana, Dr. Eric Williams of Trinidad and Tobago, and Michael Manley of Jamaica, the Treaty of Chaguaramas was enacted to forge greater economic links and relationships between the English-speaking Caribbean. So I'm not too sure what he would make of the state of CARICOM at the moment, but that's for another time, I guess. Sadly, he passed away in 1987 at the still tender age of 67. And in fact, just a year after his return to government, having spent about 10 years in opposition. He was declared a national hero in 1998, and in 2007, he was recognized as the father of the nation, and his statue was unveiled in Independence Square in Barbados. His birthday on 21st January was declared a public holiday, and there's also a part of the highway, I'm not sure which part it is, a part of the highway that's named after him. And of course, his face adorns the $50 bill. So today, a little belatedly, his birthday was the 21st of January, so today we salute our father of independence, the Right Excellent Errol Walton Barrow. May he continue to rest in peace.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Bev. Yes. Now, this particular occasion gives me great pleasure because I have several conversations with our guest speaker. He has educated me about St. John and even St. Peter, which I have roots and my family have roots in. And a very humble fellow indeed. Let me read his biography as it is here written, and I will not add any more to it, young man. Now, we all know him as Dr. Don, but his name is Dr. Belfield Burgess, known to friends and family as Don, is a medical doctor who's worked for more than 20 years as senior clinician in emergency medicine in the UK, and I must tell you it's in the Northwest London area. Don has a significant interest in improving outcomes for people in the Caribbean region through integration, believing that society is better, more of us are better off. Let me try and read that again. Society is better where more of us are better off is a guiding principle, whether supporting and mentoring young people or adults to adopt healthier habits and lifestyles. Don has a great interest in helping others to recognize and optimize their potential. Don's first and forever home is Wilson Hill in St. John. Very apt that you're doing this description, doing this presentation today, a St. John boy. He believes that maintaining close connection to country's roots, lasting friendships, and community values are a sustainable foundation for growth, happiness, and prosperity. He is constantly learning something, a trait that has served him well in a professional career that has spanned several industries and contexts, and I have heard that he's done quite a lot before he got to this stage, including family retail banking and a portfolio of medical specialisms. Just in case Maureen pulls me up, specialisms. Hobbies include motorsports. He's an avid fan and hopes to get back in the driver's seat soon. Please welcome to the platform Dr. Don Burgess.
Thank you. Oh, no, it's obviously going off. I'll have to read from the dodgy bits. Before I start, what I'd like to do is a couple addendums. I realized Miss Bent, the Burgesses and the Bent/Bens are somehow related in St. Peter.
Burgess.
Right? And which is a random thing that the late Walton Ben told me a million years ago. The other thing I spoke to these guys earlier because I realized there's a fair amount of Aline school people in here, and in the context of of speaking about Errol Barrow that it's important to know his father was actually a senior teacher at Allen School before the white people kicked him out of Barbados, right? And they one more thing of significance, again, before I start, that we need to be aware of is one of the people that he was at university with was Lee Kuan Yew. And that is absolutely significant in terms of the history of Barbados and the world. Because Lee Kuan Yew developed Singapore as a mirror of Barbados. Not in front of, he was copying what his friend had done in Barbados. And somehow they've gone in this direction and we kind of stay still and just gradually improve. But that's, I think, for a completely different topic. But anyway, let me start with my bit, all right? So again, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everybody's well. Thank you that Paul is here and well.
Yes.
But I greet everybody well. I'm fine. So I would say welcome to the Errol Walton Barrow 2026 Memorial Lecture. Today I want to talk a little bit about how we can normalize greatness in Barbados, especially for the young people. I think we should extend it to young people in this country of Bajan descent, because obviously most people are old enough to actually have children. And it's going to happen by raising expectations, doing what I classify as strengthening our villages, and valuing learning in all of its forms. That's quite important. So I'm going to talk about what has made me a reasonably successful adult, coming from what I would classify as humble beginnings. In later life I've realized it's not quite as humble as I thought, having gone to other places and lived other places, that you only truly recognize your privilege when you see people who don't have it. And also how we can attempt to replicate my background and my upbringing for youngsters from any other background. Now, I'm not an authority on Mr. Barrow. I know a little bit because he's an impressive man. You do some reading, you find. And I think most of what I know you can find online these days anyway. And it's publicly available for everybody to go look. And I think more people actually should, because a truly impressive person. What I have in common with the late great Dipper is that we were both country boys, one from the north, one from the east, who went to school on Crumpton Street, right? Now, for the correction, he went to Comamere for one term and then went to Harrison College. Coming from that middle class background, he spent a lot of time outside of Barbados, just like I have. And he acquired a lot of skills in many, many different areas, hoping to improve life on the rock. Now, I could never measure myself with the same tape that he used for Mr. Barrow. I wouldn't attempt to it, but that's not the point here. The objective is that we need to learn to plow our own furrows and to have a fantastic life that works for you as an individual, and hopefully works for the community in general. You know, I grew up in St. John, as Paul would know, where the skipper was royalty, absolute royalty. Now, one of the things that I'd say is the headline topic for this lecture today, well, this speech today, was, if I plant you, you will grow. That's something that my mother used to say to myself and my siblings all the time. She used to ask the children all the time. Now, obviously, the people who speak pretty would say, will you grow? But my mother would say, you will grow. And as an adult, I've actually spoken to my siblings. And the mature understanding of this is, if I invest in you, right, are you going to use it beneficially? is it going to be worthwhile for my investment? Whereas as a child, I kind of thought, oh, well, what it means is, can I trust you to follow an instruction or go do something? Today, we actually have to ask, how can we ensure that our community investment that we're making as a group creates the maximum benefit? It's a question that doesn't get asked enough, but we keep investing. Right? I realize that in order for us to make the best use of other people's investment in us, we first need to be amenable to being helped. You've got to be willing to have somebody help you, and also to recognize when you're being helped. So that's 2 steps. Recognize when somebody's trying to help you and be willing to accept the help. And the question really is about what is our expectation of others and ourselves. Now, it brings me to expectations. What are our expectations? And it would appear to me that a lot of people have low expectations of self. And we have a lot of headlines about it. It's not a new development, right? But it may explain a lot of things about our interactions with other people. Because for me, it explains when I present ideas and plans to civil servants in Barbados in particular, but other places in general, my plans are usually described as being ambitious. And I've come to interpret ambitious to mean that can't work here, right? Or I don't see how that can work. And I look and I say, well, even though the same idea has worked perfectly well elsewhere, somehow it can't work in this context. So I've learned over time to cut my losses, move on to the next person, optimize my resources, and use the main resource, which is myself and the village that I have around me. Now, I'm actually a product of a literal village and a figurative village. I am a boy from Wilson Hill in St. John, right? Born and I will die Wilson Hill. I have not lived in Wilson Hill since 1980 something. But that's my permanent address. Now my children have figuratively been raised in villages. Not actual physical villages, but figurative villages. And it's one of the reasons why the younger 2 are growing up in Barbados now. Because the village that they had here was not big enough to provide the kind of support I wanted for them. 2 young girls. My son is older, and he has a powerful village here. Works really well for him. But we need to recognize that to reap the benefits of being in that village, whether it's a physical village or otherwise, you need to create a safe, nurturing place for your children, and you have to do your part for other people's children. I have given my children clear expectations. Do your best. Don't leave anything on the table. Perfection is not the goal. Progress is the goal. I grew up in a small place with some incredibly good people. Even some of Tyrone's relatives.
I mean, even though.
Right? Now, Wilson Hill was a comforting place. Old school. Very old school. If Mummy was not talking to Miss Bennett, my next door neighbor, I could not walk past Miss Bennett and not greet her. Because licks would share. Miss Bennett had an interest in me even when she couldn't stand my mother. So she's looking after me. That's the village. During the summer holidays, Ma Moore's house was part summer camp, part restaurant, everything. And the important thing in that house was all hugs. She loved and cared for everybody. It's something that I am glad to say that my children have gotten in their respective villages. Now, The hours are still in Wilson Hill. There are many of them. There's still hugs available, right? In my later teens, I practically lived at a lady I call Aunt Mary, distant relative who lived up the hill, whereas we came from down the hill. And then a little bit older, I practically lived at one of my school friends' house with Monica Skinner. I'll give you an anecdote. I would be at Monica Skinner's house and I would say, you know, I've been here a week. I need to go see my parents or whatever. And she'd go, but why? I'm like, yeah, but it's my parents, you know. It's yeah, but you want something? You're like, yeah, but my parents and I are not at war. You know, I'm happy. This is another comfortable place. And she would say, take my car, right? And I'm thinking, but if I take your car, that means I have to come back, right? And to this day, that's somebody I call mommy. There are many mummies. Lots of people I call mummy. I see a lot of these people in me as an adult. I use what I call Skinnerisms from Uncle Jeffrey, where you say certain things that in retrospect are always hilarious, but very, very cold. As an adult, I broadened my village to other countries. I went to Trinidad to go to school, and I got adopted by a lady called Nurse Koo, and another father, Frankie, who I speak to almost weekly, sometimes several times a week, and this is decades later. And to show you how a village works, when I speak to Frankie, our conversation rarely ends without him saying, son, I'm proud of you, I love you. Right? Zero relation. This is a man I met because somebody was fixing a race car at the side of the road and I go off the minibus to go and be curious. Right? Ended up in a different village. And at this point in time, I'm old enough to have grandchildren, but I still get this. And it strengthens me when you come off the phone and you go, yeah, this is good, right? The unfortunate thing is that I have supervisors everywhere. You can't do anything without somebody saying, you sure? You sure this is what you want to do? You sure that was where you wanted to go with this thing? But now I'm at the stage where being part of a village for other youngsters is the norm. I am part of a village for youngsters in several countries, and I'm continuing the cycle. Now, and talk about any other people. So we start with the local village, the regional village, and any other people. There are many, many people who've taught me a whole bunch of things that they didn't have to. And they were generous of spirit and gave as much help as they could. I have actual siblings who've done this. Some of my siblings are genetic, and some of my siblings are adoptive, and God knows where. Again, more supervisors. You know, the brothers and the sisters come out the woodwork when you do something wrong. Right? So we need to ask, why are we working? Why are we doing some of these things? And what's the point of it, you know? And who are we doing this for? So I have to connect it back to the young people. Enabling and encouraging young people to focus is a very important part of helping them to be resilient. The ability to reflect on the position that they're in and actually reaffirm a commitment to moving in a specific direction, that's learned. It's not inherited. You're not born with it. You learn how to be resilient. You learn how to focus. You learn how to make decisions based on whether it's a logical process or an illogical process. So if they don't have it, it means that somebody has not been teaching. Usually. I have 3 intelligent, high-achieving children, in spite of me. And in many ways, my children are an improvement on the original, because there is more of a conscious effort on my behalf to create that village. My wife is an amazingly intelligent person, ridiculously well educated, right? So for children in the house, that's obviously a burden. You got the parents with all papers, right? But I still ask my children the same thing I was asked by teachers at school. You need to be able to explain everything to me that you quote as a fact. If you tell me something is a fact and that is it, explain. I'm not accepting anything without evidence, and I don't want you to accept anything without evidence. No hopes and prayers, right? Now, there's more value to experiences than things. And I say this from somebody who has been on both ends of the spectrum. People who have fewer things tend to focus on acquiring things. My family focuses on experiences because the things get broken and you forget them. Experiences harden who you are, and they open your eyes to what is possible. There will never be a PlayStation in my house. It ain't gonna happen. But my house does have random rocks from some mountain or some lake or a lake on top of a mountain that my children have acquired and brought to the house because we focus on experiences. That makes me see that the children that we are raising as a collective need to do more. If for no other reason than the fact that they can do more. We need to build a culture of doing things and not talking about doing things. Barbados is very good about talking about doing things. But we need to actually have the children do things, and there's a lot of possibility to get up and do stuff. We need to let children who are the less inhibited part of the society, because they don't have the experience of failing and having errors and what, we need to let those people less inherited to push the boundaries of what we need to do. That's how you make progress. Because the people who are fully inhibited, because they've lived for 50, 60 years, are not going to be pushing any boundaries. Rarely. It's the 15-year-old that doesn't know that you're going to fall and break a leg that will be pushing boundaries. But we need to focus on being the guardrails, not the barriers. We are here making sure that they don't go off to the side too far or the other side too far, but we're not here to prevent them from advancement. As a nation, we are very risk averse, and we need to stop the next generation from being too risk averse if we really want to make real progress. But that works by us providing supervision and safety nets for this kind of youthful enthusiasm. Right? We need to have our children learn how to measure risk. Not to take every risk, but to actually examine risk, go into detail and measure it. To say, is this worth doing or not? My children are on different ends of the spectrum of risk taking. The middle child will design contraptions and jump off buildings. Right? The last one is, come in, come and have a seat. The last child is super risk averse. Let me wait until our friends have a seat. Feel like a pasta. Now, I don't remember too many of the possessions that I had as a youth. But I do remember things like camping as a cadet, exploring Turner's Hall Woods with one of my teacher and fellow pupils. Most of these people are still my friends today. Right? I remember construction sites on weekends with my father. So indeed, when I drive through St. Philip and St. John, my children are annoyed because I will look and go, your grandfather built that. That's his style. I don't remember when it was built, but I know he built that one. He built that one over there because I could see his style and his marks. Right? I was watching this video recently with a young man from Jamaica. It's an off-the-grid family. They're a little bit left of center, so homeschooling and all this other thing. And this guy is 19 years old. He's been building his house for the last 2 years. The house is far advanced. You know, there's family business and everything else. And I was with a crowd of people, and everybody was so amazed at this young boy doing this thing. I said, well, I built my first house when I was 15. This is a normal thing. We should normalize this. And it brings me to an important point in terms of the acquisition of knowledge, right? Mr. Barrow was known for having several careers, right? But yet when young people now change career, they change course mid-career, people sneer at them and go, oh, well, you ain't got no stick-to-itiveness and you're indecisive and whatever, as if trying something different is a problem. Right? There was no suggestion that Mr. Barrow was particularly bad at any one thing. Right? He was a lecturer, he trained in economics, he was a lawyer, he was an MP, he was a politician, he was a pilot navigator, and other things. But nowhere in history will you see anybody say, but he was a rubbish politician, right? There's nothing. He just wanted to do a lot of things. I think that's important. We need to support that. The first book I bought was Privilege. The first. And I bought Privilege because I had tasted the man's cooking. And I was a fan. So, as a family, we used to walk and buy holidays. We used to walk from Wilson Hill to Bath Beach. It's about 10 miles on the road. Because I think at the time my father had a car, but on bank holidays and weekends, he used to be off somewhere building somebody's house, because there's 5 days a week for the company. Weekends, he got to do his own thing. So a lot of times we had to find our way to whatever. The man worked 50 weeks a year, right? You got to hold your hand up to that. Now, we would walk this 10 miles. I got to explain it. It's when you want to learn something that you don't quite have a clue about. You pick up your phone or you go to the computer, you go on YouTube, and you go, how do I do this? And you watch 11 videos about 9 people doing it differently, and you arrive at a hybrid solution, and you come back and you try it yourself. And that's one of the things that I've done to augment my knowledge. In terms of real qualifications, I have a bachelor's in chemistry and biology, courtesy of the taxpayers of Barbados. And then I have a bachelor's in medicine and surgery, courtesy of the government of Barbados. I also have a diploma in dermatology, courtesy of me. Right? So I started down the road of banking. Then, after graduating from medical school, decided I wanted to do cardiothoracic surgery. So I went off to do that, went off to start that, and then realized I would be competing with a good friend for one job in Barbados. And I said, no, this is not who I am. Then I went to general surgery, did that for a few years, learned about a wider village with my boss and his boss, people who look out for you and who do things for you when you are not even thinking about them for yourself, the village. Left that and decided to come here to do breast surgery. Everybody tired yet about what the career thing?
Absolutely not.
And then eventually got here and realized, you know what, this probably isn't the thing for me. Went back into emergency medicine that I tried from before, and I've been doing it now for 20 plus years. So I've spent most of my professional career in the emergency room. One of the points I have to say after saying all of that is, education does not have to be formal, but it should be broad. Right? We have to be more aware of the role that we play in actually educating people informally. Because we have schools, we have universities, everybody gets a formal thing. That's easy to follow. But we have this role in terms of informal education. I know more about gardening, construction, mechanics, sales, and farming, and a whole bunch of other things because of informal education. The key for us is to be as focused as you can be wherever you are. I always encourage people to learn new things because knowledge is never wasted. My children are sick of hearing, knowledge is never wasted. Go learn something else. Right? As a society, we need to make a distinction between being thirsty for diffuse knowledge and having a lack of focus, and not confuse the two. We need to encourage the former, right? Encourage people to have a thirst for knowledge, but we have to mitigate against the people who lack focus. The first world societies, like this one, demand people to be super specialists. You know, you need to know every last thing about. So when you want somebody who can really, really pinpoint and figure out something, those people will lock into that, and you cannot pry them loose at all. That gets you real results. We have to accept that in between there will be these bursts where they have a short attention span, but that's the price to pay because we will benefit. So again, the village has to take care of those people. Now, the children who actually have this lack of focus, right? That's quite common these days, even among adults, because of the advent of things like TikTok and Instagram. It's designed to give you short bursts of attention, where once you get used to it, you struggle to actually sustain long-term attention. So we have to harness that hyperfocus. I'm going to get to something about humility, because my experience with Mr. Barrow was about a humble man. I was too young to hear a lot of the speeches and hear the bravado, and I never got exposed to that. At this age, I don't think I'm going to go back and look at speeches from 40 years ago to try to dissuade myself of this man's humility. I prefer the memory I have. Right? One of the strengths of people in Barbados, right, is that we've always been proud of Barbados. We're not just proud of being Bajan, we're proud of Barbados, the place. And unfortunately, until other people notice it, we're not quite sure, we don't even think about what we have. Somebody else has to notice it first and make it important. And when the conversations come up about, like at work, somebody would talk about the joy of being able to go online and research something or whatever else. And when I feel like winding somebody else, I say, oh yeah, well, you know, that's only possible because of a guy that went to my school. I go, eh? Yeah. A couple of weeks ago, everybody was going off about young Bethel. And I go, well, his father was a better batsman. They go, how do you know that? I used to watch him at school. They go, what? Right? Now, when you mention these things, you have instant celebrity status. Oh my gosh, right? The next generation that we have can only really gain confidence from recognizing the achievements of the people who've gone before them. But it's not just the academics. It's not just Alan Emptage. It's not just, you know, superstars. Because everybody can't be a doctor, a lawyer, or Rihanna. Now, if you lived in Wilson Hill in the 70s, early 80s, you would have been familiar with Mr. Hunt, who lived in the eastern end of Wilson Hill at Villanova, a former home for a former British Prime Minister, Anthony Eden, and Philip Goddard, who lived at Belmont House on the other side, next to the Howards. Now, at the time, flying high businessmen, right? And again, humility. As a child, I watched these gentlemen would come out of their driveways and they would look at people on their way to work at the bus stop. And they would stop and fill their cars. And it reached a point where what was funny is the people who looked like me, in an age where there was very little air conditioning in cars, would drive past those people at the bus stop with the windows rolled up. Right? It's amazing. You know, it reached a point where people would actually inch away from the bus stop and inch closer and closer to the end of somebody's driveway because you want to be the first person that they pass when they come out, so you get a ride. This is true generosity of spirit. You know, doing things that you don't have to. It won't affect you one way or the other, but you can help somebody else. Now, I'm going to mention a little bit about resilience. It's really very common these days to see people floundering and flapping around at what many of us older people would consider to be a normal, fixable problem. And we need to get our children to function like sat-navs, or as it's called in States, GPS. Recognize when there's a problem or an obstruction as early as you can. Don't have an argument. Recalculate. Change the plan. Not waste time. You never hear a sat-nav going, oh, I don't know, this is so hard. No, it says recalculating, gone. We need to be able to provide support to these youngsters at a point where it is cheaper and easier to do. And I think that's what part of the new education planning is about. I'm still in contact with friends from primary school. There are people who know me from short past. When I was 7, at 7 we knew the kids in the class who would go to jail. We could tell you the ones that were going to jail. We could tell you the ones who were going to get in some sort of trouble. It's predictable. The rest of us can recognize it. If we do intervention then, it's far cheaper for society and it's way better for society. Because very few people are actually irredeemable. It's what civilized people and civilized societies do. This is part of the evolution of our society where we become more civilized. We're not there yet, but we need to get there. The other point with the primary school thing is we need to maintain our links. It's not an accidental thing. It doesn't randomly happen. You need to work at it. My family are amazed and irritated in equal measure at the fact that schoolmates of mine from 45 plus years ago, we talk every day. A bunch of us, every day. The phone cannot be in the bedroom because it goes ping, ping, ping at all hours of the night because we are here, Barbados, Australia, New Zealand. We're here, there, everywhere. It's one of the reasons why I am so proud of my colleagues, because they're not just high achievers, and many of them are very, very high achievers. But I'm proud of the people who have done really well in areas that did not require academics. You know, this is one of the things. Last night I was out. I went to the Bajan Lime and I met a man for the first time who I knew who he was, and his brother is one of my colleagues who has done really well in Barbados. So we took a picture, and 5 minutes later the response came back full of expletives. Two good blankety blank men. I'm like, okay, yeah, good, yeah, appreciate it, right? Now, we need to encourage the kids to participate in things. Again, I go back, we talk kids, but it's not just kids. The 20-something-year-olds, we need to encourage them. It's very easy to be distracted by the success of your peers. And then you stop doing what you need to be doing because you have people around you who are exceptional. Now, the example of this is, I was a big fish in a small pond at primary school. And that's where you'd get the Mount Tabor school picture. I was a big fish in that small pond. You go to high school, and you now realize that you are not even a medium-sized fish in a big pond. You are a sprat. And I spent years hanging around, looking as a spectator until I realized, you know what, my role is different, my place is different. Society still doesn't cater for that, right? Now, to reiterate, I'd like us as a collective to set the expectation of getting the best out of all of us. Focus on creating these villages, the figurative village, or if you have the possibility, a literal village. And for those who clearly need it, emphasize learning in all of its forms, not just academics, right? And learning for the sake of it, as a joy, because it's more beneficial. And we need to decide how to be resilient by building systems that take the pressure off people, right? If you have to fight to be resilient yourself, it's always going to be a struggle. If you work in a system, and this is why the Scandinavians do extremely well, they have a system that builds in resilience for everybody. Now, in closing, I'd like to ask one thing. We need to normalize greatness. We need to normalize greatness. The default setting for us as a community and as a society needs to be that not if we can do well, but how we can do well. Even if you have to change career, right? How can I do well? We need to do a better job of surrounding our people with a variety of different visions of success. Not just academics, not just the doctor, the lawyer, the whatever. It's why in Germany you have to train and be super special to be a roofer or a carpenter or a mason or electrician. They are proud of these things and they value these things. It's seen as a success. It means that what we have to do is to review what we perceive as truly valued accomplishments. And my last sentence is, we need to be surprised when we fail, not when we succeed. And I'm finished. All right, Mr. Howard, sit down.
Thank you, Dr. Don, for an expose of growing up in Barbados, especially in the country, and put it in much context. We're going to break now for about 5 to 10 minutes and have some little refreshments, and then we have the Q&A much afterwards, okay? 10-minute break, 10 minutes English.
10 minutes English. No,
10 minutes English.
Yeah.
Interesting. I want you to grill this man. I want you to ask him the questions, because he touched on things that even I left Barbados at 14 years of age, but I recall a lot of the stuff that he reflected upon growing up, because I'm much older than him. He's just a youth. So, but I set the trend and now he follows. That's why I'm part of his success.
Absolutely.
Now, the National Council of Barbadian Association, we do these things, and we also short of funding. So this was meant to be he's meant to be registered online and pay a fee of £5. So what I'm asking you, that if you can do so, please speak to our secretary or our assistant treasurer, Ashley, or even our chair. Just drop your £5 there, or even buy. What's the price for the raffle ticket?
£1 straight.
And what would we get?
A gift.
You see, we are a Barbadian organization. You don't need to know. You don't need to know where you're gonna get. Just give me a pound. You understand?
Is it a bottle of Mount Gay? No, it's not. For a pound.
Anna, she's from St. Andrew. There is no rum refineries in St. Andrew. Mind you, please get back to your seat for Mr. Allen, get annoyed with you. All right, let's do the official thing. So what? Put your hands up. I'll bring the mic to you. You can ask Dr. Dawn a question. We have about 30 minutes for this session, so keep it tight and try to keep your questions short and succinct. Maureen, just say who you are and ask the question.
Hi, Dawn. Thank you very much. That was a very informative lecture. I'm Maureen Stewart, and I am a member of the Barbados Overseas Community and Friends Association, BOCFA, and I think I'm also something with the NCBA, but you know, I'm here as a Bajan first and foremost. Don, thank you very much, very informative, but what I find interesting looking around the room, I hate to sort of, you know, guess at an average age of the people in the room, but very informative, very instructive. My question is, this is something that our youngsters need to know. They need to listen to people like yourselves talking about, you know, growing up in Barbados and the impact it has had on you. I mean, you talked very much about the village, and in Barbados it's very much about, you know, it takes a village to raise a child, and I'm sure that's not just the case just for Barbados, but overall. So my question is, how do we get our youngsters in the room?
I think you have to make it relevant to them. What are youngsters interested in? Some of them are gamers. There has to be something to do with games. Some of them like music. You have to meet them on their level. We have an issue where we constantly try to get younger people to come to our level where they have no interest. We need to go to theirs. Now, I mentor a lot of youngsters, mostly as individuals, not as groups. But I do the church groups and all the other group things that people ask me to do. And I realize, even with my own children, you have to come to their level.
Next question, Andrea.
Yeah, I'm talking about the children.
I'll come to you. Tell us who you are and what's your question, please.
My name is Angela Allen, and I'm a member of Barbados Overseas Nurses Association. My observation with the young people over here, they grow up in a different environment, they work and live in a different environment than the people who were immigrants and come from Barbados to England. Our experience is totally different than theirs. So we got on with stuff, but they grew up in a society where you had welfare, and if you didn't know how to get things without depending on people or asking for advice. And the working environment for the young people in England today is so different that none of us can understand it, especially if you're not working in the public sector where they have set times and set hours to go and come to work. The ones that are working, say, in management, economics, and probably the media, their working environment is such that you got to find time to catch them, because half the time you don't know where they are or what they're doing.
And the
You
question,
say that, I mean, it wasn't a question, but what I'll answer is, you say that, but actually, a lot of the problems are similar. Money is always everybody's biggest problem, and time. And everybody wants to know how they can make more money and get more time. And it comes down to the same thing of meeting them where they are, not where you want them to be.
all right, I just want to check to see if your mic's on, because
They can hear me.
yeah, they're looking for the video.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, next questioner, please.
My name is Beverly Goring, and I'm the chair of the National Council of Barbadian Associations UK, and also chair of Allen School Alumni UK. Right, thank you very much for that really, very thoughtful, inspiring, very interesting lecture. Now, I like the idea of when you said people learning just for its own sake. And it reminds me of what we talked about in the sociology of work. The idea that work, education, for example, people see it as just education to get a job. But there's the other side of education, more informal, that is just education just for its own sake, just to have that experience. And I think maybe we need to go back to that a bit more, because if you're just having education just for a job, what happens when there are no jobs? Then you begin to feel useless. There's no point to your life anymore. People just become, you know, I think this is where you get a lot of crime and things like that, because people feel useless. There's no point to their lives anymore. So I think the idea of doing things, learning just for its own sake, just to have that experience that then you could put to a lot wider use. I think that's really important, and that's what I took from this today. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. What I like to say to that is, people who feel useless get depressed and spend a lot of time wasting my time coming to hospital with illnesses that anybody recognizes are not real illnesses, but they're lonely people. They need company. They need to come out, and this is a vent. This is a place where you get to listen, you get to hang out with people for 3-4 hours, and you get to talk to people and that kind of thing. We recognize this. It's obviously part of the problem that we have now, but I think it's not just Bajan society. Wider, we need to recognize that 2 centuries ago, when we lived in fiefdoms here, effectively, the Lord and Master of the area took care of everybody else. So working was not about money. Working is about refining a skill for life. Things have degenerated to the point now where we are actually working for money because there's no benefactor. And our education system, which was going in one direction, got derailed effectively to provide workers. I think that's part of the proposed change to the education system, to go back to the point where we can ask people to get an education for the sake of being a better, well-rounded person. Hopefully.
Hello, my name's Veronica. I'm second generation Bajan, so I wasn't born in Barbados. I have no titles, so I can't offer any. What I'm looking at from what you said today, which was powerful, from where I am, second generation, so not growing up in a village, not having all that family around you and people that will look out for you regardless of whether you're their child or not. That's growing up in the UK. I mean, I do have friends from primary school that I still connect with, but also that that feeling of being in a village is not something that I can say that I had experienced growing up here. It was me, my siblings, my mum, go to school, come back, close the door. Don't talk to them people over there because they're not from Barbados. You see them Jamaicans over there run. That's the information that we got. On the other hand, I go out with my mother a lot, so I can see her village. I can see the people that are looking out for her. They come, they collect her, they take her to where the party's at, let's say, for example. Myself, I'm trying to develop a village because I can see that it's needed. I have my grandchildren now. And because we are in this individualistic society, you can see that I'm in my room, I'm on social media, I close the door, don't let my brothers and sisters in. I mean, everyone growing up here now had to help bring, trying to ask someone today in this society, you need to help bring up your brother and sister. It's like, oh, it's not my job. I didn't ask you to have them. So I want to know how we can go about really drilling down and developing that village. I have my own ideas and I do a lot of connecting, but just on a wider plane so that we can really connect with that generation that has never had it. And I'm second generation, so they're third and fourth generation, so we're losing that, we're losing it. So my question is, how?
So, the solution to this quandary is one person at a time. You need to identify people with shared values, wherever they are. And you would be very surprised at where you find them. For example, my son's village is here, and there are people who went to university with his mother. So if he's home from university now, there are 3 places where he's going to be. And none of them is TikTok. Right? His best friend, who is 2 weeks older, whose parents went to university with his mom, he is literally their second son, and vice versa. So, where are you? I'm a Killing. Okay, and I say nothing because that's my experience with Monica Skinner. So it's not like when you're coming home, right? It's not even if you're coming home. It's do you need anything? Because you are still within the safe confines of your village. What you have to do is identify those people one by one and have the conversation. This is the objective that we have. Are you in or not?
All right. I just want to make a comment on the point that Veronica made, because we grew up in London and we had a small kind of village, but can relate to, like Dr. Don talk about his son in university. But as youngsters, I'm sure there's lots of us who went to comprehensive school around the corners, but they didn't have any family who knew about universities and stuff like that. And you find that a lot of children who have parents who have become academics gravitated to academics very easily. And so that's the kind of world we live in. So I understand where you're coming from, and I know your family, but I just feel that we have never realized that a lot of us had that potential to go further. And other people now in this generation, they can go to university, because my mother would say, well, I can't get down to this school for the, what we used to have, parents evening, because they're working or daddy working, so you go down alone, because you didn't have that kind of network. So in Barbados, where you had this, like he says, the village system, that's how we all progress, and that's why a lot of us came over here much more educated. That's my point, that's all.
Yeah, gotcha.
Sure now.
Well, I don't know how I'm going to articulate this with the little time that we've got left, but the question is, how do we, first of all, I would say that I've found the village through my church. Because you're not going to find all Bajans.
It works.
It works because the church has got like a structure. And there's the care and support, loneliness, there's everything in that structure. But going back to it, my sister and my name is Sherman Peters, and I'm a member of the Barbados Overseas Nurses Association. And my sister and I have this time together now where we've got time to reflect. And we would love to have done what you did, was send your children back home. Because we found our children were bright, but they couldn't, the expectation was so low. And the other thing is we didn't have any reliable person back home to send them back to either. So they got stuck. I mean, they recovered and we've gone on since then. But yeah, I just wanted to say that.
It's a slight correction. I haven't sent my children back home. We have taken our children back home. I live in Barbados. I work in London.
Yeah.
So you have to find a compromise that works for you.
Yeah.
My wife works online. Which means that she's there. When I leave here next week, when I leave here next Saturday, I arrive Saturday, she's on a plane on Monday, going to work.
Oh, okay.
And then comes back for a little bit, and then has to go away again before I leave. And then when she comes back the second time, she get off the plane, I'm on the next one. Right? It happens sometimes. But we
Just to
have
let you know
friends.
that this is not normal life.
But again, because of our village, I have 2 siblings there. My kids hardly ever stay with my siblings. We have our network. I've got a good friend who used to live in London. He has the same family network as me, oldest son, 2 younger daughters. His older daughter is 2 days older than my older daughter. Again, these babies have been together since they came out the womb. So 15 and a half years later, they finish each other's sentences, and they're quite happy. The 4 of them are quite happy to ignore the rest of us, and we just pay for stuff. Right? So if we're not there, they're at his house, never a problem.
That's good.
Okay. Andrew.
Good afternoon. My name is Andrea Rock. I'm a member of the Ellen School Alumni Association. There are just 2 things I want to touch on. People talk about university, but we are all at university throughout our life. The university of life. Don't have to go to an institution to learn. We're always learning. So it's the university of life. Secondly, you mentioned coming down to the youngsters level. I wonder if there is some way of devising some kind of maybe game or, I don't know, a chat room that they can join. I'm not techie, so I don't know the terminology, but some kind of chat room they can join where they can be educated, and in brackets, about Barbados, about the village, about life in general, or life's experiences. If there is such a way of devising that, that would be great. And as the lady said, I sent my daughter home because I felt that she needed culture, and that's where she was going to get it. And so she now can boast about the culture in Barbados, growing up in a village where Miss Smith boxed her and tell her, go home and tell your mother, cut your ass and all that. She could, those were her words, not mine. But those are things that she could identify with. So when I say to her that I got a whooping, you know, because I didn't drink my castor oil or whatever, she can identify with that. So I'm just wondering if that is something that could be done.
So we have to be cautious about talking down to young people. You have to be very cautious about talking down to people. That's why I say we can't stay here and talk down. We have to come down to their level. And there are always going to be parallels between what they do, because the world hasn't changed that much. They're doing similar things to previous generations, they're just doing it slightly differently. They're having the same boys hang out or girls hang out. Some of them will do it in a shopping center, but some of them will do it over a computer. So there's still the same 6 or 8 boys hanging out together. They're just hanging out in different living rooms. So you have to get involved, and the key thing is to actually ask them, what are you interested in? And follow them. I am a rugby fan now. I never knew a damn thing about rugby, but my son decided he wanted to play rugby when he went to high school. And every weekend, one or both parents schlepped to go to a game, wherever that was. The loudest voice you could hear on the sidelines is his mother, every time, right? In every video, running past, go be, and what you'll find is, because you have to observe. I watch the kids who don't have that, and I see their confidence. And I watch in the beginning when your child or somebody else's child is first getting that reinforcement. In the beginning, they look back because they want the reinforcement, they want the support. When it becomes the norm and they're hearing the voice, they don't look back. They're at full speed ahead. They're focused, they're at full speed ahead because they know that you're there. Support is there. They don't have to see you. And we have to give that to children. My children have taken up so much of our time, going here, there, and everywhere else, because it is important. Like somebody said, my parents couldn't go to parents-teachers meetings, right? So I had to remember every last detail and come back and be honest about it. I had to. But it's yes.
But you plant them and they grow.
You plant them and they grow. You plant them and grow. And the thing is, the biggest influences in my life have been teachers. The biggest influences, bar none. And my brother, obviously. But my primary school teacher, she was going to retire early, and I saw her somewhere, and I said to her, "You can't." She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "You know, the reason why I like dancing is because she used to have a square dancing and whatever. The reason why I went into cadets and whatever, everything else, because she used to have the Cub Scouts and whatever else." And I went through a litany of things. The reason why I do this is because of you. My head teacher at primary school, who died last year, giant woman, fully supportive. The reason why I like crop over and carnivals and whatever else is because she's like, we had the first primary school crop over band, right? That was from the head teacher. The reason why I went into medicine, other than family influences or whatever, because my biology teacher, Monica Prokop, was a genius. She wasn't a Bajan woman. She was a Jamaican married to a Trini living in Barbados. Right?
That's a village.
That's a village.
That's a region.
Yeah, that's a village. So now her son is part of our village.
I didn't need a microphone.
Let's do it properly.
Yes.
I just wanted to say, actually, I chair a Caribbean group, African Caribbean group. So all the groups, whether from Jamaica, Antigua, are represented in that group. And as I was listening to people, I'm thinking that actually that's part of the village as well.
Correct.
Yeah, and it actually works. And the other thing about it was, this particular one that I chair was formed about nearly 35 years ago. And one of the things they did, they ran a bit for the elderly. It's a luncheon club. And of course, people deliver the elderly there. But one of the things I did was to make sure that the young people know that this isn't just for the elderly. So getting the young people to come in, not just drop the old people off, but then can come and eat with us and come and talk to us. And it's brilliant. So just wanted to put that in. It's not a question, it's a comment.
You've actually woken up something in my head. One of the things about Japanese society that's really interesting is they recognize that people at the beginning of their life and people at the end of their life have a lot more in common than the people in the middle of their life. So they put those two groups together and it benefits everybody. We are not as civilized as we think we are. We have a long way to go to get to that level of civilization. But that's one of the things that needs to happen in the future. You have competent elderly people who got all their marbles, right? And that's most people. The people who have dementia and all these other problems, that's the minority. But people don't think about that and think like that's everybody. But most of the other people who are competent, 70, 80, like my 94-year-old lady yesterday, you put her in a facility next to a nursery where she can impart wisdom and she stays younger, they mature earlier.
And some cultures you have all the family living
in the same place, yes.
That can't work for me. My question to you though, Dr. Dunn, is simple. Why did you send your children back home to Barbados to learn? No, I didn't send. We took. I do apologize. Yes, but what is a known fact? It was in the late 60s when a lot of youngsters went home. The highest percentage of those that returned to Barbados found career jobs and stuff like that, and they did better than the black children growing up here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, there is that point, but the world is a different place. Now, because my son's village is different, he was always going to thrive here with ease. With ease. I think the first time in his life that he ever got less than the top mark in any exam was at university. And that was a shock. But because we had focused on resilience, it was upset for 2 days, and then the next thing is, I am going to get to where I know I need to be. The difference with the girls is that their village was smaller. And we literally only had a handful of people for them to interact with. because several of our friends who actually had young daughters here moved to Barbados, right? So the core group that they would hang out with, all of a sudden everybody going to Barbados. A bunch of little kids born here, they go to Barbados, and you reform the gang. So I know that at least twice a month, we're all going to get together. If the group doesn't hear me, because I'm here alone a lot of the time, if the group does not hear me for a week or two, because I'm busy, the message will come, Doc, you good? Yeah, man, good. What are you doing? Right? And we go through the litany of stuff, the interrogation. And that's because the village recognizes that somebody who is on the fringes, who is on the outside, may be at risk. And that's how we function. And I found that, like you were talking about other places, but I found that in all over the Caribbean, because I've lived in Trinidad and Jamaica and Guyana, and I have found that village support everywhere I've lived, because there's not very much difference between us.
Any more questions?
This is a stupid question, but I was
just ask it anyway.
I was having a conversation recently with some people, and they were talking about a black middle class and the black lower class developing in England, and that the black middle class doesn't really know what is going on the ground in England.
That's true. That is absolutely true. Again, because people, it's very easy to silo yourself when you've reached a certain point of comfort where you can get in your car, go to work, come back home, you see a handful of friends on the weekends, and literally before you know it, it's been 6 months before you've actually interacted with anybody who's not from your group. It's very easy. These societies make it easier. So you have to find that safe place where you can put yourself among everybody else. Go to a football match or something and burn 200 pounds.
Thank you, Dr. Don. So on behalf of the National Council, please give Dr. Don thank you for a very illuminating evening. There's nothing much for me to say apart from thanking my colleagues here at the National Council, member of organizations, Alain, Botfer, and all of you for attending. Thank you so much. I think the next thing on the agenda is that you will raffle the money and the networking. But thank you all so much. Give yourself a round of applause, please.